Welcome to the TechGig Leaders Circle podcast, the space where we decode leadership, innovation, and the human side of technology. Folks, today's episode takes us into a conversation that's long overdue but deeply necessary. In tech circles, we often celebrate code architecture, engineering brilliance, but there's another dimension that plays a quiet yet powerful role in the product success, and that's marketing. So, what is the developers often miss about marketing? And more importantly, why should it matter to them? To help us unpack with this both insight and clarity, I'm delighted to welcome someone who's been at the forefront of shaping brand narratives in the technology space, Dr. Kiran Veigas, the Vice President and Head of Corporate Marketing, Branding, Communications at Happiest Mind. Welcome to the show, Kiran, and it's such a pleasure to have you with us here today.
Thank you for having me, and it is my pleasure.
Okay, so let's kick things off with a fundamental one. In your experience, what do developers most often misunderstand or overlook about marketing, especially in a tech driven environment?
Well, thank you. I think it's a very good question, and I'm able to appreciate this much better because I started my career as a developer. Right. So 25 years back when I started my career in the industry, I'm a telecom engineer by qualification. My initial qualification is that. And I used to write software for mobile phones, right? So I've written software for Samsung, Nokia, and Motorola mobile phones. And so during that journey, I got a lot of experience about, what is really important from a developer point of view. Post my higher education at IIMB, right? When I pursued a management program from there, I got a different aspect about strategy and marketing, and that's how I took up those roles. So I'm able to appreciate both of these things, because I've worked in all of these areas. And to me, what I see is usually what people think, right? They think when you say marketing, right? Especially developers, they think marketing is just about maybe a promotion, right? It is about look and feel, it's about aesthetics. That's what they think. But what happens is now when you're building a product, right? That is not all, right? In reality, you have to start marketing and it has to happen much, much earlier. You have to understand what is the real problem you're trying to solve of the user. Is it really worth solving, right? And you need to shape your narrative around that, because that is very important if you really want to get a product out into the market and you want to get it very successfully. Now when developers, if they overlook this, they risk building, you might build some great technology, but maybe no one will actually understand it or no one will actually adopt it. So that's the risk you take.
Fantastic, and I'm so glad I have someone who's worked and have an expertise from both the segments, tech and marketing. Kiran, moving on to why should these things matter to our developers? These days, many developers are seeing marketing as something that comes in only after the product is built, right? But why should developers actually care about marketing at all, and beyond just launches and branding activities? If you could just help us elaborate that.
Okay. So see, marketing is ultimately more about, creating that impact, right? You might write some, fantastic code. You can build a, very fantastic feature, a real good feature, etc. But if it does not reach the audience or the audience is not able to understand that, right? You're not really communicating the benefits very clearly, right? Then what happens if you're not communicated the benefit, the value that you will get, the perceived value in the end user is not there, right? So it's really important for developers to understand that when they are aligned with marketing, right, it will be much more better to communicate this, right? You'll be able to understand what are the users needs, you'll be able to understand what are the business goals, and then also look and see how to get that product onto a roadmap for a long term success.
All right. I think that part itself states for a collaboration, right? If you could share some real world example where a stronger collaboration between the developers and the marketing led to a measurable business impact outcome that you've seen in your career, Kiran.
Okay, I can think of several examples, over the years, but I think I like one example I'd like to talk about, right? So in the early days, around 11 years back when I joined Happiest Minds, we were building our own IoT platform. It was called Midas, right? And during that time, I still remember the technical discussions that we had and the close collaboration that we had between the marketing team and the technical team. Now, because of this type of a collaboration, right, we were able to identify important features that need to be implemented, right? So those could be included in the product roadmap as well, and plan, right, and then figure out which features are high priority, right, and then plan that in a more effective way, I would say, right. In fact, I still remember it was so good that we were able to onboard a few customers, and we also got an external recognition, that was Financial Express. We won that product of solution of the year award, and we won that award at a ministry level. So the communications ministry, I remember the minister had actually given that award, and both the teams, the technical team and the marketing team representatives, went jointly and received that award. That was a very memorable time. I still remember that. So it shows a very good collaboration can actually do wonders. Then more recently, yeah, we actually, Happiest Minds has acquired a company called Pure Software. Through Pure Software, we also got one core banking solution called Artha. Yeah. Now,
Okay.
what Artha already had, a very good market in Africa as well as in Southeast Asia. But now we need to take it after post acquisition. We are now taking it to newer markets, especially India, the US, and UK. Now, what we have done is very closely we are working together, the Artha team as well as the marketing team, working very, very closely. The marketing team is also arranging a lot of inquiry sessions and briefing sessions, right? These are with top leading analysts, because of which now the product team is able to better appreciate what needs to be done to take this solution into the newer markets. So I think this is something that we are currently doing as well, and it's very, very important.
Fantastic. Now, stating the collaboration part here, Kiran, I'm sure it needs a lot of communication also when it comes to the collaboration element, putting across teams and cross-functionally when you try and perform something. And let's accept there are certain times that there's a communication gap that the developers and the marketers often face. What are some of the most common disconnects you've seen, and what are some of the effective ways you can tell us that people can bridge this gap?
Okay. So see, the one big gap I see always, no, developers will speak in terms of features, specs, right? So that is the language of a developer. Marketers, we speak in terms of benefits and outcomes, value created, right? Now, one more is also about timing. Marketers, they come in very late, right? Because sometimes the development is already happened, everything is done, marketing is done a little later. Now, bridging this gap means you have to create the spaces very, very earlier in the product lifecycle, right? You should have those planning sessions. You should have shared KPIs, right? And you should have some sort of a feedback, right? And this feedback has to be regular during that entire cycle, right? So I think this is what is very important. And really, that having a little more, that curiosity, right, empathy, right, sometimes just asking the key questions, right. There are two questions, one is why, one is why not. You should be able to ask these questions and find answers very early on. That will give you a lot of clarity.
Great. Now let's talk about developers as strategic enablers, because I'm sure you've been in that role for some time, wherein you've seen both the sides of it, and you well will understand what it takes and how well that these two functions has to be. Now, from growth and the team dynamic perspective, how can we understand that marketing helps a developer become more impactful within their team or even across the organization?
I think it definitely helps developers, see the larger picture, the big picture, right. So that's very important. When you understand how your entire, whatever product you're building, whatever solution you're building, right, how it fits into the entire customer journey, right, and you're able to do that positioning, you make better decisions, right. So whether it is you're going to prioritize a few features, or even how you improve the UX, the user experience for the for that particular feature or for the entire solution. It can even go as far as, I'll say, as even naming a product. How do you name a product right? right? That's, I think, very important. It also makes a lot of cross functional collaboration much more smoother, right? If you have that understanding, that collaboration becomes very, very smooth. And this can be a really huge asset in any environment, right? In any product driven environment, it's, if you are able to do that type of a cross functional collaboration between both the teams, it's fantastic.
Great. And now the final take on busting the myth around these two departments in an organization. If you could just bust one major myth or misconception, let's just say, the developers tend to have about marketing, and what would that be and why?
Okay. So marketing is just fluff. That's what people think, right? Or they think, you're just giving it a new, a new variation and a new angle, a new spin, right? That's a myth I would like to, really bust. Good marketing, it's all about being deeply analytical, right? Being strategic, and definitely user focused, end user focused, customer centric, right? It's also about good engineering. Yeah, it's not only about selling what you have, but also understanding what people really need and how your solution fits that. So when developers and marketers really respect each other, and what each other brings to the table, that's when the results are really powerful, effective, and give value for everyone involved.
Fantastic, Dr. Kiran. This has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you for breaking down the silos and showing us how marketing and development can and should work in tandem. To our viewers, I hope today's episode helped you see the value of marketing not just as a support function but as a strategic partner in tech innovation. Dr. Kiran, thank you so much once again for being a part of TechGig Leader Circle and this podcast. So honored to have you here with us today.
Thank you. You have a wonderful platform, and I'm sure everyone's making the best use of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and follow us here at TechGig for more such powerful conversations with our leaders here. Until next time, take care and keep building with purpose and perspective. Thank you. Bye bye.